can bring over our junction boxes, and since we only have one, we can change that to junction box. I like to place the labels first, and I like to take my snap off for this. We have the main service panel up here. There it is. We'll label it right there. We have the AC disconnect. Sometimes it can get kind of tight in here. We have the inverter. And we have roof access. Roof access required by law is, it even states the law right here. It cannot, the inspector has to have access to this building, or the fire department, you want to show the fire department where to access this building, and it has to be not under windows or doors. So typically, one area that's not under windows or doors is the side of the house within 3 feet. Typically, windows are within, not within this 3 feet. So I will label it right there. That's the roof access, where they can put the ladder to access those panels if need be. PV arrays, we label our arrays. We place that right in here. And then the fire clearance, finally the fire clearance. We want to label that fire clearance. That's required by the fire department. Now, you see how the labels are outside of the property line or outside of any other lines? They're not crossing any lines. I don't want to put my labels on lines. The city doesn't like that. They want to see well-defined, clear labels. There's also some other labels we can add. But let's, before we do that, let's label each one of these. So I like to turn my snap off again while I'm drawing lines. L, enter PV arrays. Sometimes I like to point it right to the center point there. Junction box, space bar is the last command. Put it right on that junction box. Show everybody where the junction box is. The conduits. These are 3/4 inch conduits. You see how I gave the contractor an option, either on the roof or under the eave or in the attic. These are the electrical conduits. This is the inverter. This is the AC disconnect switch. And this is the main service panel. Okay? Now that's our complete labeling, almost a complete labeling. We could do other ones, like Control C. Now you can label these trees. You can put trees. Since the trees are gray, I like to place that label in gray. I like to make that color gray. I'll even do it a little bit darker gray. And then I place it on each one of the trees. Sometimes I will even see that arc. Nobody knows what that arc is, and so I will label it just so the homeowner will know, or anybody else will know. Possible shading from that tree, and I will label it. Okay, and then there's one more I like to label, and that is the driveway. So everybody knows where the driveway is. Now, some cities require the street name to be on there. So this street name is Oak Circle. So Oak Circle. And sometimes I'll color that gray since it is kind of an auxiliary label. And then I will rotate it to make it look like this is the street. I'll kind of bring that away from the property line. Some cities require a property line. Okay. Now you can manipulate these labels too. So Control A, PL. I typically like to show the property line a little bit bigger. So over here I can manipulate how big that, or how large that letter is. Let's do 0.3. That's a little bit too much. Let's do 0.25. Let's do 0.2. See how you can manipulate that? Control C, V, escape. Let's select again. Control C, V. I just maybe like to place the property line just to show everybody that's the property line there. Okay. Looks like one of our blue items is interfering. So then I go down here and change the scale and make sure, remember, it's 1 inch on our page is equal to 20 feet in real life. Okay, so I would call this a completely labeled and perfect first page. Okay, so we've inserted the site plan into the drawing and we added the labels. This is ready to become a PDF, so save everything. And then we file, export, PDF. And then remember 17 by 11. And that's now a PDF. We can close out of that. Yes, we want to save. Okay. And there's all our PDFs. This is what the first page looks like. So it looks like the PDF was created properly. Somebody can go print that out at 11 by 17 paper. So let's go on to page 2. Let's open it from draft site, page 2. Okay, this is ready. Now remember, we have to rotate the view so that the panels are facing 170 degrees. Let me bring in the panels first. So we're inserting a reference drawing again. And this time we're inserting the dough layout, if you remember. We're going to specify this inverse multiplier. Make sure lock aspect ratio. And for this one, to bring it in larger, the inverse multiplier is 0.000781. You're bringing it in at 3/32 of an inch equals 1 foot in real life. Okay, this is architectural scale, this is engineering scale. So the cities like to have the first page engineering scale, second page architectural scale. Okay, so this is the larger scale, and then if the property is really big or if the roof is really big, it typically won't fit this 3/32 scale, and so I like to shrink it down to 0.000521 and 1/16 for 1/16 scale. So for this I'll show you both. So 0.000781. There's the scale. Okay. That comes in very well. I like to make it as big as possible so you can see all the details but not go over our space. Now I will bring it in, so just so you can see, I'll bring it in at the other scale, the dough layout, 0.000521. See how it's a little bit smaller? You can use either one of the inverse multipliers to bring it in however you like. This is a bit too small. You kind of have too much space there. You have enough space to put the labels, but it's kind of too small to see the detail on this project. So we'll keep the 781. We have our scale there. You see how big the scale comes in on this one? This is kind of why I do not typically put the scale on the second page. Also because you have these dimensions that give you the scale anyway. So I will later go in and delete that, and I'll show you how to do a change if need be. So again, we are at the 3/32 scale. 30 seconds equals 1 foot in real life. That's the architectural scale. So now, I brought that in. I want to make sure I don't select anything else. I like to keep this compass rose. Let's keep it down here. And see how the first page is true north view, and this page is the flat view, just so you can see the details better. And so I like to rotate it to be true, show which way is north. So these are looking like the panels are at 170. They're facing 170, so the panels are facing this way, so we got to make that way 170. So that looks to be about 170, and we've placed that label. So now we can just go over here. Again, my snap is off. The conduit, I can just keep all of these off. The junction box, bring that down here. The main service panel, the AC disconnect. Maybe I have some extra room up here. You can utilize that room. The inverter, gonna have a lot of labels bundled into one area. Right here we have the grounding. The city likes to have a note that what type of grounding, how the panels are grounded. And For this project we can use grounding lugs. Now if you're using Iron Ridge, a rail and attachments, they have self-grounding. So some rails are coming out, the newer technology is self-grounding rails, and so you do not need to purchase extra grounding lugs to ground your panels. Okay, so those are those labels. Then we have attached modules. So these will be pointing to our attachment points. We have the panel rails. You show the panel rails here. And then the existing rafters, 2x6 at 24 inches on center. If they're 2x4s, you have to change that label to read 2x4s. And then finally we have our fire clearance. We have our fire clearance here. We can load and delete the old lines that were there. Okay, now everything is on this page. The labels are placed. Now I draw my lines. Main service panel. Boom, right there. AC disconnect. Inverter. Here's labeling the conduit. Junction box. Right there. Panel rails. Point to the panel rails. Get as close as possible. Sometimes you can use a snap for this. I've just gotten pretty good at just drawing the lines. Attach modules to structure per details and data sheet. I've gotten pretty good at just, you know, without the snap. Now is it perfect? You can see that it's not perfect, but when it's printed out it looks like it is perfect. So existing 2x4 rafters, I'll do that again, so kind of see. Okay, there's our 2x6 rafters, 24 inches on center. And then finally our fire code. This is our fire code. Point to any area in that 3 foot. Dimensions are on there. And this is a completely scaled and correct, 100% ready to go. Page 2, equipment plan. Again, some cities require or will require you to have this equipment plan stamped by a structural engineer, which costs about $300 to $400 depending on where you are, and full structural calculations. They'll also do full structural calculations for you. So this is the page that they stamp, and then some cities require that page 3, the electrical diagram, be stamped by a certified electrical engineer. Okay, so did we create the PDF yet? Let's do the PDF. Export PDF 17 by 11, enter. Okay, PDF created. Now we can close out a draft site completely. Oh, we have to do that placard file. Let's do the placard file. The last is the placard file. So let's do that placard file. Open the placard sheet. And we have to place that the site plan, because it's showing true north. I like to show the true north view in this map file. So I save it. And this I will not insert. I will not insert the drawing. I will actually go and get the lines that I want here. So I'm just going to select as many lines as I can. Control C. I like to get this driveway and sidewalk in and possibly some other things. I typically don't. I'll delete the trees when we get there. So I copy the lines. No, I don't want to save. And then remember, this is the real scale. So it's going to be bigger than our 11 by 17. And so I can go ahead and delete some of these lines. I'm going to delete that shading area here. We don't need that shading. The trees, delete. So those are the lines we'll go with. Now the scale, we gotta scale that down to fit into our 11 by 17 page. So the scale that I use here is, I select my base point, 0.003. 0.003 is the scale that I use, and you can see that now I have to move it. I have to select every single line and move it into there. So that typically fits this map very well, that 0.003 scale. You can always increase or decrease. So then I place my solar photovoltaic array on roof, my labels. This will be to the disconnect. showing the disconnect, and this will be to show them where the main service panel is, and then we just draw our lines. This is the main service panel. This shows the disconnect, and this shows the photovoltaic on the roof. I might place that line better here. There we go. Okay, so this is a 100% complete page 8 placard file. Warning placards. Export PDF 17 by 11. Save. Close. And now we have all of our sheets in PDF form. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Title sheet, equipment plan, electrical diagram, module data sheet, inverter data sheet, attachment data sheet, rail data sheet, and the placards. So what I do now is I turn back on my internet, and I'm going to teach you how to merge the file and compress the file. So we're going to merge this. I use PDF compress. I love PDF.com. Put that over the side, and you can see they have a merge tool, split. You can split the PDF, compress the PDF. You can turn a Word document, PowerPoint, Excel document into a PDF, or you can split them up, turn a PDF into a Word, PowerPoint, or Excel file. You can turn a PDF into a JPEG, or you can turn a JPEG into a PDF. And you can do all of these functions on this website, and it's free. So I merged the PDF, and it's asking you to select the files to merge. We have them selected already. And I drag those over, drop files here. And now I want to take a second to make sure they all come in correct. Okay, they're all 11 by 17. They all look good. So then I merge them. Merging them. Now for me, since I use Chrome, it automatically starts to download. If it does not, you can always click on download merged PDF. Megabytes, looks like it's all downloaded. Go to my downloads, and there is my file. There's my merged file. It's it's almost 10 megabytes here. Just want to verify everything looks good. Everything looks good. Now let's compress the file. Actually, I did notice that there's a problem. There's one thing that we forgot to do. I'm going to show you right now. I kind of did it on purpose, but there was one calculation you kind of want to view and go over. This is your peer review time, okay? So there is one calculation that I did not do on purpose. I wanted to see if you guys caught it, and that is this one. This is the MSP bus, the main service panel bus rating. Okay, for this rating, it's rated 200 amps, as it says in our checklist here. Where's our checklist? Our checklist says it's 200 amps. 200 amps. So a rule of the city NEC code, National Electric Code, says that you cannot go over 120% of this rating for this bar, this metal bar. You can't go over 120% of the rating when you add both the main circuit breaker and the photovoltaic breaker together. You cannot go over that 120%. So this is first calculating 120% of that 200 amp rating, which is 240 amps. So we cannot go over 240 amps when we add our main circuit breaker and our photovoltaic. This is a very important rule. It prevents a lot of fires. Okay, so what is our, okay, so we cannot go over 240, yet we have gone over 240. 200 amp main circuit breaker plus 45 amp photovoltaic breaker, that's 245 amps. We are over, okay? So in this case, we need to derate this main circuit breaker. Okay, so we're back in the page 3, and we need to redo this. First of all, we need to do this calculation, okay? So it is a 200 amp bus with a 200 amp main circuit breaker. That's what our checklist says. Let's bring up our checklist really quick. Our checklist here for John Doe, he said it's a 200 amp main circuit breaker and a 200 amp bus. Okay? Yet we have calculated 45 amp photovoltaic. Okay, so let's do that. Main service panel bus is rated 200 amps times 120% is 240 amps. This is the number we cannot go over. I'm going to repeat it because this is a very important rule. It prevents fires, electrical fires. So our main circuit breaker, currently we have 200 amps plus our 45 amps. That's 245 amps. We are over. See how it says system complies, the sum does not exceed 120% of the bus rating. Well, in this case it does exceed 125%, so it does not comply. So how do we get this to comply? We can't go any lower on our photovoltaic since we have 41 amps going through that line, 42 amps almost. So we need that 45 amp breaker. What we can do is derate this to maybe a 175 amp breaker. Go get a 175 amp breaker from Home Depot, Lowe's, any electrical contractor, and switch that main circuit breaker out in the electrical panel. So let's see what it would be if we went down to 175. So 175 plus 45 plus 45. Let's see. All right. Plus 45. 220. So we're at 220 amps, which does not exceed 120% of that bus rating. So we can derate it to 175 amps. Now if you go too low on the deration, the city is going to wonder if that's enough to cover all of your electrical loads. So sometimes the city, if you go too low, say 150 or below, they will require electrical load calculations from a licensed contractor. And since this is a new main circuit breaker, we need to indicate it's a new main circuit breaker instead of existing main circuit breaker. We have an existing bus, but then we need to notate up here, derate main circuit breaker to 175 amps. I like to change the verbiage. Okay, so we're letting them know we're derating to 175 amps, and that will be enough to allow us to have the solar photovoltaic. Again, this prevents any electrical fires, overloading this bus. That's what the 120% rule is made for. And then here's a duplicate diagram, I guess, just to show. Sometimes the city likes to see that, so we changed that one as well. 200 amp bus, and our photovoltaic is 45 amps. Okay, so that was just a correction in there. I thought I would leave just to see if I could test you guys. So now we need to re-export our PDF. Yes, and so now we need to verify that our new PDF in Doe for that single line diagram is correct, and you'll see that it has changed. Okay, it shows our deration. Okay, good. So now let's do it again. Let's merge this file. We're not uncompressed yet. Let's merge it again. Part of the reason why I did this is so we can repeat. I like to repeat information. It solidifies information in your brain. So, okay, all the pages look good. Let's merge the file. Going to download again. Okay, coming along. File is downloading. On my next videos, I will pause during this time so you don't have to see, but I want you to see the first time how long it takes to merge and download so you can gauge your plan building properly. Downloads. Okay, so there is the merged file. Let's have another look over it again. Page 1. Everything looks good. Page 2, we've drawn lines to everything. Page 3 shows our duration, correct number of panels. Page 4, data sheets, inverter, attachments, rail. Very good. And finally the warning placards. That's our complete plan. It's almost 10 megabytes. I like to compress it down. Some plans can get up to 30-40 megabytes. So I do like to compress it down so I can email it to my client. Bring the merge file over and compress the PDF. You'll see it compresses it down to 1.5, 2 megabytes, sometimes 3 megabytes. And it doesn't compromise the quality of the lines very much at all. So that's why I like this program, because some programs pixelate the PDF or the JPEGs within the PDF, or they pixelate some of the words so you can't read them. It's illegible. So let's go. Looks like it's downloaded. There's our compressed and merged file. I'll show you. See, it did not pixelate the quality at all. Those words are very legible. Even the notes. The notes are probably the smallest font, and you can still read it if it's printed out on 11 by 17 paper. Okay, there's our merge and compress, and now I save this as final dough. Today is 1/24. I guess today is 1/26, right? I've been filming this lesson over several days. So Control C, I put that in my dough file, and now I'm complete. I can send this file as one file to my client. Looks like it's just a little bit under 2 megabytes. So with that, we're complete. I've shown you. Let's go through the PowerPoint again. So what did I show you? This is lesson 3. Lesson 1, how to design and draft a solar project for permit. Let's wrap it up. This is what I've shown you how to do in these 3 lessons. I showed you how to set up the solar project, what you will need. Draft site is what I use. You can use any 3D, or not 3D, two-dimensional drafting program for this. I use Google Maps. I use Zillow for public information. I also use Google to get my data sheets. And once you build a library, you can just pull those data sheets over into your files. And the address or the city having authority. I showed you my checklist of what I send my clients and all the information I need, and I can basically, if come down to it, I can do a solar plan just from an address, and then you can go back and forth with your client or do your changes yourself of how you actually want to do this project. But you can go just based on an address now, or you can have all the information. The more information, the better. That's the checklist. I showed you how to prepare your folder, the project folder, the client folder. Search for the home in Google. Take all of your screenshots of the vicinity, the roof, and the public information. I showed you how to add all of your data sheets to the project folder that you might need in JPEG form. And then we got into the pages. We could turn off our internet completely and just complete all the pages. Change all of the information on page 1, 2, 3. The third page, I showed you how to do Page 1, 2, 3, all of the electrical calculations on page 3, the electrical wiring diagram. I showed you the structural calculation on page 2. Those are all the calculations for the entire plan. And then we got into the data sheets. We changed all the customer information. We placed the proper JPEGs into those data sheets and made them each into PDFs. And then finally the warning placards. Then in this lesson 3, we worked in the options drawing file. That's the working file. And we drew our site plan. We drew our layout. Copy and pasted each of those drawings into their respective files, their own file. One for the site plan, one for the layout. And I taught you how to insert those site plan into page 1 and add the labels and draw the lines. And I taught you how to insert the drawing into page 2, add the labels and the drawings and the scale. And now you know how to design and draft a solar plan for permit. So congratulations, you made it this far. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for your patience. If I might have been confusing in any way, and please feel free to give me a call or contact me on YouTube or Facebook if I can help you anymore. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu, Godspeed, and have a great time doing solar plans. Bye.